Thank you. Ooh. Perfect. Thank you, beautiful. It's so good to see you. And Charnay, I have to give a shout out to her too. And 50 million other people I want to give shout outs to. Hi, you guys. I'm Holly. I'm an alcoholic, and I am super excited to be here. And it's going to be in the low 30s tonight in Jacksonville, Florida. What? Just saying. Had to bring the plants in. So my sobriety date is September 28, 1996. I have a home group, the West Connect group in Jacksonville, Florida. We meet Monday night, 7 p.m. Eastern time. And we are hybrid. So if you ever want to come, hit me up. Be happy to give you those codes. We'd love to have you. And if you're ever in Jacksonville, please hit me up. I'll grab you. We'll have coffee and we'll go to my home group. I do have a sponsor. My sponsor is the amazing Miss Polly P. Of course, she has a sponsor and she has a sponsor, and I sponsor women and they sponsor women. So that puts me securely in the middle of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm a little bit nervous. I'm seeing some faces on the screen here that are people that I really hold in high esteem, really, really admire. And I feel like I'm just a little nervous speaking in their presence. So you know who you are, Louis, Ollie, Teresa, etc. So just saying, I love step 11, and I was praying and talking to God about this today briefly because I didn't want to think about it too much because that never serves me. And I was thinking about how incredibly grateful I am for my life. And I am not rich. I am not famous. I'm certainly not getting any younger. You know, I have a little yellow house in Jacksonville, Florida. I've been divorced for 26 years. I'm over 60, postmenopausal, divorced alcoholic woman. What? And yet I am grateful. And the reason that I am filled with gratitude is because of the relationship that I have with God and how that shows up in my life. And I want you to know I am not a person that sits on a pillow cross-legged, burns incense, and has a spiritual experience with God. It doesn't work like that for me. The way that God works for me is touching you. And I don't just mean alcoholics, I mean mankind. You know, I am tasked. And it took me forever. I'm running around in Alcoholics Anonymous in the early days trying to figure out what God's will is for me. What's God's will for me? OMG, like I'm playing The Price is Right, right? If I pick the wrong door, I'm going to get the wrong prize. So I got to pick the right door and I'll live happily ever after. So God's will, my mom's will, my ex-husband's will. Oh, lions and tigers and bears. And then all of a sudden somebody pointed out to me in step 9 in the big book. What? It says our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. Boom. There it is. One little sentence. And all of a sudden I could set my sails. I had a direction. And step 11 for me has been an uphill climb. I'm going to be real honest with you. It's been an uphill climb. You know, it came into the program and how I experienced God in my life was footprints in the sand, looking behind me. You know, Bob B says we live life forward, we understand it backwards. And that is exactly how I understood God. You know, I live life forward, white knuckling, doing the footwork, doing what my sponsor tells me to do, which made no sense to me whatsoever, but I did it anyway, because they said, if you do it, things are going to get better. Okay. I don't understand how cleaning ashtrays makes any difference to my spiritual program, but I did it anyway. And as I did that, my life began to change. And what I mean by that is it didn't get great. I didn't make a lot of money. I didn't have a great marriage. But what happened to me is the inside started to get good. You know, I started waking up in the morning looking forward to my day. Absolutely amazing. But what I want to talk about in the topic that I picked on page 99, I just plucked a little line out of St. Francis' prayer. And that line is, for it is by self-forgetting that one finds. And I want to talk about that tonight because that's been where I've been living in my step 11. And, you know, when I hear a lot of people talk about step 11, they all talk about prayer and meditation, prayer and meditation. You know, we think step 11, that's the prayer and meditation step. Well, that's half. That's half. But the second half has been the spotlight of my 11th step. I've got prayer and meditation. I pray all the time. I mean, I chat up God sometimes formally on my knees every morning, every night, always, right before I speak. I'm on my knees. But I chat up God all day long. And then meditation, I do formal meditation. I'm a Deepak Chopra fan. I don't know if it's because it's the dialect, the language. I love the accent, as well as the message, but it seems to quiet my mind. So I do a formal meditation every single day. That's all fine. Everybody can find their own little practices in that, right? It's very, very individual. But what about the second half of step 11, praying only for the knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry it out? What? You know, that little second half of the 11 steps sat there for a lot of years with me not really paying attention to it until about 2018. So I'm going to talk to you about that. I'm going to tell you a little story, and I'm going to tell you how that is manifesting in my life today. In early 2018, I got bad news, and here's how this went down. I have a baby sister, one sibling, 4 years younger than I am. I originally came into the program in February of 1981, following my mother in, who was 3 days sober. My sister came in a year after that in 1982. So the three of us were all sober. I was sober for 13 and a half years and let the world and the third dimension distract me, and ended up picking up a drink, scared me to death, absolutely terrified me. And I ran back to the rooms, and I've been back for, solidly 27 years. It was a hiccup, a very scary hiccup. But one baby sister. So she comes into the program while she's in college. She had no chance. Mom and I were both a year sober when she came in. She's getting a degree in journalism at Baylor University in Texas. She's beautiful, successful, doing great. In her late 20s, she started losing jobs because people were talking about her and nobody liked her, over and over and over, until she was diagnosed with schizophrenia, which began to progress. In her late 30s, she was falling down all the time, and they thought it was from the psychotropic drugs that they were giving her for the schizophrenia. No. In her early 40s, they finally figured out she had MS. So how MS showed up in my sister's life, and I don't know if you know anything about multiple sclerosis, but it's scar tissue that begins to form on the brain, and wherever that scar tissue forms affects things. And for my sister, it affected a lot of her right side, and especially her right leg. She would drag her leg. Mobility was difficult. And as a result, she gained a lot of weight. She became very, very large. She walked with a walker. It was very hard for her to get around. She was very, very slow. And then add schizophrenia. She'd be crossing the street really slow, and then squirrel, she'd go off to schizophrenia and then just stop. You'd have to be like, giddy up, Helen. We used to say if you go to a restaurant, she'd make it in time for dessert. I can say that. She's my sister. Anyway, she was very, very slow. And what happened by the time she was in her 50s is she was living at home with my parents, my mom and my stepdad, unable to live on her own, hadn't been on her own for a decade. And at this point, she's laying in bed all day. Her mobility is gone. And she is laying in bed and she's staring at the ceiling all day, listening to the radio. And then she'd get up and go into the kitchen for meals and then go back and lay in the room and stare at the ceiling. She had zero quality of life, and she starts not feeling well. And I know this is a long story, but I promise I'm getting to a point. So my mother says, I'll take you to the doctor. Let's see what's wrong. And in her mid 50s, my mother takes her to the doctor, and she has stage 4 breast cancer, and it's everywhere. And my sister got mammograms every year. My mom calls me and she says, your sister has stage 4 breast cancer. And I got angry. I'm in the shower. I'm talking to God. I don't know about you, but I chat up God a lot in the shower. I don't know if it's because it's the morning. I'm naked, vulnerable, wet, but we talk well in the shower. And I'm mad. And I'm talking to God, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Really? Schizophrenia, MS, and now stage 4 breast cancer. Now we have different fathers, and this is all her genetics. I have none of this in my genetics. Now I want you to know I am the bravest woman I know. And I'm telling God, why didn't you give it to me? Give it to me. My little baby sister is naive. She is precious. She is sweet. She idolizes me. I walk in the room and her eyes light up. She thinks I walk on water. She thinks I'm amazing because I had husbands. I know, 2. Because I have children. You see, she doesn't have any of those things. She never has. That schizophrenia came on in her mid-20s. My sister's had none of those things. She's not had relationships, let alone a marriage. She's certainly never had children. She's never had her own home. So she thinks I'm amazing. She's precious and innocent and sweet and kind. Why not me? Give it to me. I can walk through anything. And I was angry. And I'm here to tell you that I could go places and I could say to people, you know, my sister has stage 4 breast cancer. And you know, Helen, she's been in the rooms. Please take 30 seconds and bow your heads. And can we just ask for God to heal her, to remove it, to all the right prayers, right? All the right prayers. So the doctor said, this is what we're going to have to do. It's all over her body. It's in her bones and her liver and everywhere. So it can't be cured. No surgery necessary, but they're going to give her chemo, an oral chemo pill, and they're going to do that to kind of slow down the cancer and maybe give her a little bit more life. But, you know, they're going to give her this chemo pill and it's going to make her sick because it is chemo. So she starts on the chemo pill, and here's the first thing that happens. She doesn't get sick. And she doesn't get sick because she's had MS, and she's been on MS medications, which are apparently very strong. And so she's got a resilient body. So the medication doesn't make her sick, but what it does do is curb her appetite. Now, what happens if you curb somebody's appetite that's obese? They begin to lose some weight. My sister loses about 40 pounds. Well, you know what happens when an MS patient loses 40 pounds? Man, the little walker starts going. She gets mobile. Now, we have a little bus system in Jacksonville, Florida. If you have Social Security disability and you just call them up, the little bus picks you up, takes you wherever you want to go. At the end of that little visit, they pick you up and they bring you home. It's about $1.75 each way. I go over to my mom's house. Where's Helen? She goes, I don't know. The little bus picked her up this morning. Helen is off and running. She is going to the bookstore. They liked all her little special friends because she used to go to like little special like classes and art things and stuff with all those special needs people. All her little special friends, they all meet at the bookstore and they drink coffee and talk and read and have a good time. One day she called me and I said, where are you? She says, I'm on the little bus. I said, where are you going? She says, I'm going to Penman Road. That's an AA club at Jacksonville Beach, Florida. She goes, I'm going to Penman Road. I'm chairing the noon meeting. I'm like, oh my God, they have a schizophrenic chairing the noon meeting in Penman. That's awesome. She was out and about. The doctor called us and said she can go on a trip. Do you want to take her somewhere? Well, COVID was happening, well, except in Florida and Georgia. Anyway, so, you know, we decided to take her to Helen, Georgia. Because that was her name. That is her name, Helen. So we took her to Helen, Georgia for a trip. And it was amazing. It's very much like Gatlinburg, Tennessee. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's very Swiss, like chalet kind of atmosphere and lots of little shops and stuff. And we took her and I'd throw in her wheelchair and we'd run up and down the streets. And we just had an absolutely amazing time in Helen, Georgia. And we came home from Helen, Georgia in September of 2020. And she went to bed. The family went over for Thanksgiving, but we had to promise her we wouldn't make her eat. She was worried about that. And my sister passed away on December 10th of 2020. And the reason that I tell you this story is because my sister for 2 years had an absolutely amazing quality of life. Amazing. She got out. She got around. She got to go to AA meetings. She got to go to her church that she liked to go to. She got to see all of her friends in bookstores. She had happy 2 years. And then she passed away in a hospice bed in her own room in my mama's house where she lived with all of us around her. And why do I share this story? Because it says praying only for the knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry it out. What? Do you know why my sister had an absolutely amazing final 2 years of her life? Because she had stage 4 breast cancer. That's why. And do you know when she got that diagnosis, I would have prayed it away. I would have prayed it away and thought I was doing the right thing. And it was in that experience that I realized that I don't know anything. I know nothing. I just think I do. I think I do. I have opinions, and I'm a human being. I'm a woman. I'm over 60. I'm postmenopausal. Apostle. I have a lot of opinions. I have opinions. But if I make those opinions truths, I'm not living in step 11. I'm putting self first. I'm believing that my truths are more powerful than God's. I had no idea the extent of that until my sister's illness. You know, I believe that nothing, absolutely nothing happens in God's world by mistake. And the first time I read that, I thought, you've got to be kidding me. All the things that have happened in my life, you're telling me that was God's idea? That is not what that says. What I want to tell you about my God, I have the most amazing God in the world. What my God does is he takes every human circumstance, every decision we little humans make through our free will, and he finds a golden nugget in it for Holly. He finds something wonderful in it for me. But you know what? I have to be looking. I have to have my eyes open, and I have to be willing to see it, which means I got to get me out of the way. I got to self-forget in order to find. It has been the most incredible gift I have ever been given. My sister died to open my eyes to God's will, to the absolute brilliance of the universe. You know, I believe what Chuck C said about this disease, that my disease shows up as a conscious separation from God and mankind, and that the solution for Holly, the solution for everything in my life, is a conscious connection to God and mankind. That is what I need. It is my solution. It is what I live in steps 10 and 11 and 12 for. Conscious connection. That the way that I feel God is by loving you. And that love is not something in my head. And very often it's not even in my heart. It just has to be in my feet. It has to be in my feet always. And it has to be a verb. It has to be a verb. And what I've learned about loving is that it's amazing. You know, I thought that if I had to put me aside and love you no matter what, that if I had to do that, it would hurt. It would be awful. It would be self-sacrificing. Ew, who wants to do that? And what I have found is when I am busy loving you, I feel amazing. I'm given the gift of joy. And I'm not seeking it. Isn't that funny? Where's joy? Where is it? I'm looking for it everywhere, and it isn't outside of me. It's in there. It's been there all along. Who knew? And I found it through my sister. And where I'm living in that step now, and how does that apply today? And let me tell you how it applies today, because I think it's really, really important to keep me accountable. And here's how it applies. First of all, it's not just alcoholics, because quite frankly, you are easy to love. Okay? Common peril, common solution. This is love kindergarten. We love each other no matter what. We don't ask anybody, who do you sleep with? We don't ask you, have you had abortions? We don't ask you what voter registration cards you have in your wallet. We don't ask you any of those things in Alcoholics Anonymous. No, we don't. We know where you've been and we know what you felt. We know because we felt it too. And so we just love you, don't we? So I learned to do that right here in Alcoholics Anonymous. And then I'm tasked to take it out in the world. I'm tasked to be of maximum service to God and the people about me. Everybody. And that's a difficult task, it is, because I have opinions. And I'm full circle back to that, aren't I? I have opinions. Well, my self-forgetting is not designated to the comfortableness of the chair in the meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. My self-forgetting is not about the comfortableness of sitting in the living room with family members around who I know well and know how to dance around. My self-forgetting has to carry me out into the world of the workplace, the DMV, the internet provider, the IRS, the Republicans and the Democrats. Everyone, everywhere. What I have to remember at all times is that my opinions aren't truths. You see, if my solution is a conscious connection to God and mankind, that's my solution. That is an established solution. You don't believe me? Read your big book. Every other page says work with others. What? Work with others. Sounds like work to me, but that's because a man wrote the big book, but I'm not even getting into that because, you know, if a woman had written the big book, it would say love others, every other page. No way Bill was going to write that. So I'm tasked to get out there and love everybody. And I don't. This is a task. The bar is set high. Why do you think I have Polly P as my sponsor? I don't think there's any other person in the world that can walk into the room and the entire room just feels loved. And if you know Polly, you know what I'm talking about. She's got a gift. I want what she has, and I'm willing to go to any lengths to get it. I've watched this woman self-forget over and over and over. You know, sometimes I think that the things that I have opinions about, like what my children should be doing, what my mama should be doing, what the government should be doing. I don't even have the news anymore. I canceled the internet because I cannot afford to watch it. First of all, I'm afraid I'm going to watch the wrong channel. Somebody's going to say, where did you see that? I'm going to say, oh, MSN or Fox or you know, if it's the wrong news channel, half the room's mad at you. So, you know, I'm not sure about any of that. I can't navigate it, so I just canceled it. I'm going to leave that to people more mature than I am. I don't know how to handle that. You know, you can walk it into the world and you can say that it's in turmoil, or you can walk out into the world and say it's the most beautiful place in the world to be. Isn't that funny? How can we have different views of the world? How is that possible? I think that the world is an amazing place to be. I want to be in it. And I want to love. And sometimes it's hard. Last year in July of 22, I had a long lost cousin that had disappeared for about a dozen years. He had met a girl on the internet in China, and he'd come out of a really awful, awful, bitter divorce. And so he sold everything he had, which wasn't much. And he took off to China and he married this fabulous woman. They talked on the internet for 7 years. It wasn't a whim. He sold everything he had and he went to China and he married her and he disappeared. And it's hard to have communication between Beijing and here. And he basically disappeared. And he contacted me early in 22 and he said, he sent me an email and he said, I've been diagnosed with cancer. I've been a terrible father. He left his 3 daughters. They had not heard from him in a dozen years. Now they're grown women. He said, I've been a terrible father. I've been a terrible family member and a terrible brother. And can you please help me reconcile with my family? And I said, absolutely. I'm in the business of reconciliation. And I didn't know how to tell his daughters that he wanted to have contact with them. Now he was getting treatment. He thought he was going to be fine, but he was going to get treatment for the cancer. And then he was going to come here and maybe buy a house, a little something in Florida with the savings and get back in their lives. So I didn't know what to do. So I just sent them his email. I forwarded it to them and they were willing to talk to them. And they began to open channels and they could FaceTime between Beijing and here. They live in Pittsburgh. And he had treatment and chemo and all of that stuff in China. And in July of 22, the doctors told him they'd given him every treatment that they had in China. And what he needed to do was come to America because they have a little better treatment here. And so he needed to do that. Now his little wife doesn't speak English, just a little bit. And what she knows and what I know and what my family knows is he's dying. But in China, they don't tell you. It is against their custom. If you're dying, they don't tell you. So he does not know he's dying. And as a last ditch effort, they're going to come to Jacksonville, Florida, because I'm the only family member that they trust, they have, close contact with. So he says, I'm coming to Jacksonville. Can you get me in a hospital? Can you help me? Now he's off the grid. 12 years he's been in China. He's 68 years old. He has no Social Security. He's off the grid. They don't even know he exists. So he's going to land in my lap, and he has rectal cancer, which means he can't eat solid food because nothing can, what goes in must come out, and it can't. That's as graphic as I want to get. So he has to have IV nutrition. So they get on a plane in Beijing, and it's a 30-hour trip, and they make it. Unbelievable. He walks off the plane. I have talked to my bank. I've set up a bank account with his name and my name. I got to just go from the airport to the bank and get him to sign it so that he has a bank account here. His wife can't be on it because she's a Chinese nationalist anyway. They frown on that here. So we get to the bank, we sign the papers, we get to my house. He wants to spend one night at my house, and then he's going to go to an emergency room. We have a free hospital in Jacksonville. So I'm going to take him there. I don't know what else to do. And this is what happened. I'm terrified. I'm terrified. This man and his wife are going to show up in my house, and I don't know what I'm going to do with him. I'm going to take him to this hospital. I don't know if they're going to keep him. I don't know what they're going to do with him. It's just a free clinic hospital. It's the only thing. He has no insurance. He doesn't exist. So I call Social Security. Have you ever called the Social Security Administration? If you have, you are going to follow the rest of this in awe. I call Social Security and I say what I just told you. And they looked up his Social Security number and everything, and they said, well, we can see he exists, but that's it. It's going to take at least a year to get, all the processing and everything done. And he goes, but let me put a supervisor on the phone. And this woman got on the phone and she took all my information and she said, can you set up a call? Can I call him on Sunday? This was Thursday, the day he arrived. Can I call him on Sunday? Absolutely. That woman called him on Sunday, and this is what happened. She did her little Social Security interview with him on Sunday, and then she hung up, and he was on meds. He was in the emergency room hospital part on Sunday, and coherent enough. Thank God for this call. She called me back, and she said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to backdate his Medicare insurance for the day he arrived and set foot on soil. So the moment you took him to the hospital, everything's covered. I'm going to backdate his Social Security benefits for 1 year. On Wednesday, we're going to deposit $19,975 into the bank account that you have set up. And from then forward, he'll get benefits. So from then he had coverage. He was in the hospital for 2.5 weeks. He got COVID. His wife got COVID. All the families flying in. They're all going to see him. Everybody's reconciling. 6 brothers and sisters in that family. They all came in. I had everybody with COVID in my house. Everybody's walking around with masks. I never got it, by the way. Back and forth to the hospital. Dog and dog care every day. I'm just back and forth, trying to take care of the wife. She's got COVID, but not admitting it. She wants to stay in the hospital and be with them. They knew, they let her. They got him in hospice for the last 3 days while he was on COVID, and he died. 3 weeks from the day he arrived, he died. July 7th, he arrived. July 28th, he passed away. When he passed away, I was able to write each of his 3 girls a check for $5,000. The rest was used for his cremation and his wife's stay and all of that. But all 3 of those girls who had not seen their father in a dozen years, all reconciled with him, held his hand, and those 3 girls were around his bed in hazmat suits when he breathed his last breath. Now, the reason I share this story with you is because I want you to know that I was terrified through that entire event. Terrified. And every single day I wanted to pack a bag, get in my car, and hit I-10 and just go west. The power to carry it out. The power to carry it out. It was one of those moments where I had to put the entire program in my feet because nothing else wanted to participate. Trust me. I knew I was going to get COVID. I knew everybody was going to get COVID. We're breaking the rules in the hospital. And by trying to feed everybody in my house, back and forth to the airport, people are crying all around me. My little 86-year-old mama's trying to go back and forth to the hospital in a wheelchair driving. It was terrifying. And what I had to do was take every opinion I had, everything I thought about anything, and put it away. just put it away. Nothing I thought mattered. Nothing. I look back on that time now, and the whole family healed. All of his brothers and sisters got to spend time with him and say goodbye. His daughters all reconciled. The only way God could work on that situation is if I got out of the way. My best thinking, my thoughts and ideas, what I might think is good for you or good for her or good for him, what I might think is right, would have been a hindrance, would have been a detriment. And I only know that on the other side. The only way that I can feel God, the only way that I can touch God is to stay out of the way, to put aside my opinions, never, ever, ever make them a truth. Because the minute that I make an opinion a truth, anyone who doesn't share that same opinion is now distanced from me and disconnected. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us, all the people about us. And to do that, I have to set aside my rights, my ideas, my institutions, set them all aside and put my hand out and touch the hand of God when I touch yours. Thank you so much for having me. This has been an honor and a pleasure.
Hi, I just want to thank you for that story. I'm not at step 11. I'm at step 8. I haven't started it yet, but how did you get to the point, Holly? I think your name's Holly, right? I don't want to misinterpret things. How did you get to the point where you just totally decided to put God first? Because I'm in the stage of putting God first and joining a new church and everything. And I just want to make sure I don't put my opinions or thoughts in mind with my family. I just want to do what's right and walk in the will of God and to do what I have to do. But I commend the stories that you put in front of us and everything, because that is just nothing but God. God is the one that gave you the strength to get through it and to do what you had to do for your sister as well as your brother. I think you said it was your brother. But I just want to ask how do you allow yourself to be used by God? Because it's I want to do service, but I don't know what to do. I don't even know where to start. So I guess that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you, Raina. I'll tell you that I don't have any insider knowledge. I just do what's in front of me to do. But I'll tell you the most helpful advice I was ever given, and I practice it as much as I can. I like to say always, but it's not true. And it is what I call the shut up paragraph, which is found in step 10. And it says, now we learn to practice self-restraint. When I'm around family, when I'm in situations and my little brain is coming up with wonderful things to say, I have learned not to say it. Just listen. Listening is probably the most amazing thing ever, especially if it's like your mom. Just saying.
Thank you so much, Raina. Anne, come on up.
Hi, Holly. Thank you. Thank you very much. That was just amazing. I think my question was very similar to Raina's. what I was wondering is what you tell yourself, and I think this is what the shut up prayer, in the moment that you're going through all of this insanity, what you say to yourself at that point in time, knowing that in the past things have worked out and you just have to get out of the way and let God. And that's happened to me several times. And I always sit back and say, oh, geez, why didn't I just let it go? But in the moment, what do you tell yourself to convince yourself that this is going to pass? Like, if you get angry at something that's happening and you don't have the foresight to see down the road, I just trusted God and everything was fine. But a lot of times there's that moment or moments where it's hard to see that and to make that. So is there something, and I think you answered it kind of, is there something that you do or say or just have in yourself to know that it's going to work out? I hope that makes sense. I know what I'm saying. It's just in my head, but
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And I totally get it. And yeah, I have a mantra I tell myself all the time. You may be wrong. I tell myself that all the time. You may be wrong. What I see is not necessarily the truth.
Right.
And I have to say that to myself. It might not be that way. It looks that way. It looks like she was just completely rude to me. But it might not be what's happening. And I think about this. I think about the story of the waitress that the server, I'm sorry, I'm dating myself with old terminology, but the server comes up to you and she's rude and she forgets your stuff and she doesn't bring the sauce and and it's the worst service ever. And she's got a bad attitude and she's not even listening to you or paying attention to you. And as you're walking out of the restaurant, you hear one girl saying to another girl, it's so sad that her son's in the ICU and she has to be here tonight in order to pay her rent. That kind of thing is what I tell myself when I want to hit somebody.
Thank you so much, Ann. Donna P., come on up, please.
Hi, everybody. I'm Donna, and I'm an alcoholic. I'm so happy to be here. And I'm shocked that I'm here. I just picked up my sponsor's message. I know she invites me to this every week. For some ungodly reason, the timing worked out. And it is exactly, really, Holly, it's exactly what I wanted to hear. I'm actually shaking because I feel like it's, this meeting was completely for me. But I am in my first year and things have been, I'm semi-retired. I moved away from my kids and now I'm back with my kids for the holidays. And oh my God, I'm in trouble. Like I am so in the way. And it's so easy when, you're alone, but now I'm in the way. So I guess my question is, because I've got a bunch of 20-year-olds, 4 of them, and they all have issues, and I need to understand what's the difference between stepping up and stepping aside. I am in constant, I guess because I'm in the program right now, I'm not speaking. I mean, I'm trying to hold back. And right now I look like a crazy person when normally people expect me to respond to something. And now I'm just like, I just look at them with bug eyes, just trying not to speak, and mess everything up. But, sometimes it's working, sometimes it's not. It's so crazy right now. But, I don't want to not be there, but at the same time, when I'm there, I'm in the way. I guess my question is, how do you know the difference?
Well, Donna, I don't always know the difference. Sometimes it's after the fact that I know the difference. My house is too filled with kids, and they're a little bit older than your, 20s, and my oldest is 32. Everybody's married now, so I have all the girls, right? And I don't know. It's amazing. It just brings me to tears to think about it. It's amazing. I sit in their midst, and whatever they want to do, I'm excited to do it. Whatever they want to watch, I'm excited to watch it. I've watched every Marvel movie. I play every board game. I've learned board games in Chinese because my oldest daughter-in-law is from China. My other daughter-in-law is from Scotland, and she's deaf. It's nuts. But whatever they want to do, it's going to be amazing. I tell them they're fabulous. When my youngest daughter-in-law wants to act all entitled, I just let her. I just go out and buy her a Starbucks. I just dive right in. I am so thrilled and excited to be with them that I just treat it like Christmas all the time. That's what I do. Does it always work? No. But they love me and I love them. And isn't that really all that matters? Yeah. I probably drive them nuts. I don't know.
Thank you so much, Donna. Howard and Kathy, please come up.
Thank you, Philip. Kathy, alcoholic. Thank you, Fellowship of the Spirit. Thank you so much, Holly. You are such a wee breath of fresh air. You're a wee dote. My question for you is, do you use prayer and meditation to, I don't like to use the word find out, to get God's will, or is it like all separate? Does that make sense?
It does make sense, Kathy. And no, I don't use prayer and meditation to get a memo from God. I don't get them that way. I mean, some people do. This doesn't work for me that way. I just know that if it's love, it's probably God. And if it isn't, then it probably isn't. It's like just that simple for me. I can't say that I get up every day and I know what God's will is and I go and do it. It's blind faith. I get up every day and I get out of my head as quick as I can, and then I just go do whatever it is that I'm signed up to go do for the day. And I put a big smile on my face, and I try to tell everybody that I like their hair, or I like their dress, or those are fabulous shoes. And sometimes I cry. I don't know if that helps.
Thank you so much, Kathy. Calvin S., come on up, brother.
Hello, everyone. My name is Calvin. I'm an alcoholic. And thank you so much, Holly, for a strong message. You know, I was thinking as you was talking about the two stories about, your sister and your cousin. And I was thinking about, I've had that same experience, right? I had a close friend of mine in AA for a long time, and she had MS, and everybody on this meeting kind of knew her. And no matter what, right to the last breath, she had a peace about her because she was grounded. I had never seen nothing like that. Then I watched Don Majors pass, right? And he broke his collarbone riding a bike in hospice. And it lets me know that we can have joy right to the last breath we take. And the story you told about your sister touched me the exact same way. And your cousin. That's a profound story. And when you talk about life lived forward, seeing backwards, as we go through things to the other side, we get to see exactly what we've been through and why we went through it. But you can't see it till you get through it. That was profound. I mean, you said some things that really touched me tonight, and I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Calvin. Steffi, come on up.
Thank you. I'm an alcoholic. My name is Steffi. I want to say thank you so much, Holly, and thank you to my friend who called and reminded me about this meeting tonight, because I always forget it's happening. But I just, I don't have a lot of questions, but I listen to your sponsor all the time. She's amazing. I listen to her all the time on YouTube. And I was listening to you tonight, and an assignment that my sponsor gave me many, many years ago, and it's one that I give my sponsees, and it just kept hitting me over and over again, is to apply the 10th tradition in your life. We ought not have opinions on outside issues. And anything outside of what's going on inside of me is an outside issue. And I love that this program teaches us that, because I can practice these traditions as well as these steps and these concepts in my life. And the freedom is amazing. So thank you so much for sharing with us. Oh, it touched my heart very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Steffi. Nanad, come on up.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nanad. I hope you guys can hear me. It showed my internet is unstable, but I just want to say thank you, Holly. I loved how excited you get when you talk about God. It shows through you. You have such a wonderful smile and energy about you. But my question is this: so getting out of the way and doing God's will, but my feet still have to move and take me to places and do what in my head I'm trying to listen to God and do the right thing and be in the right places. I recently just quickly had an experience where I thought I was doing something positive for God's will, and it ended up blowing up in my face. And it was, and my character defects came out, and I was triggered, and I took about 5-10 steps backwards with the relations to my children who I was trying to help. This is the conflict that I'm having, in my heart, in my head. I try to ask God to send me in the right direction, but clearly that moment could have been handled a little bit differently, or maybe I'm not ready. I'm not there mentally stable enough to do that. I'm not sure if you understand what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
I absolutely do. And I'll just share a really quick story. My mama used to call me and she would say, this Sunday is a football game. Let's have a party at your house, which means she wants me to, do a cookout, and call all the boys and tell them to be there. I'd really like to see them. I don't get to see them very much. And so what I would do, being the good daughter that I am and how important love is I would call on my kids and I would say, okay, Grandma's coming over. We're cooking out on the grill for the football game. And Grandma really wants to see you. She doesn't get to see you very much. So I really need you to come over and be there for the barbecue this Sunday. And then all week long, I'd send them little reminders. And, Grandma's really looking forward to seeing you. And I love you. And this is going to be a family thing. And this is great. And then the Sunday would come for the football game, and one would show up late, eat a burger and run because he had his girlfriend with him. One wouldn't show up at all. And then the other one would call and say, I'm on my way, and never make it. And my mom would say, nobody loves me. You couldn't even get the kids here. How come you couldn't get them here? And what I thought I was doing was the right thing. Now my mama will call and say, it would be lovely if we could get everybody for dinner. And I'll say, Mom, I'll send out one invite. And we'll see what happens. And on Thanksgiving, I had Thanksgiving with Mama. The kids all had other plans. They're all married. They had other plans. And now Mama's okay with it because I stopped trying to please her, please them, do everything I knew everybody needed. I didn't ask them what they wanted to do. I don't know if that helps, but I had to do it wrong in order to learn how to do it right. It's okay.
Thank you for your question, Annette. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of the Q&A. For the people with their hands up, if you want to stay after the meeting, maybe Holly can answer your questions. My apologies. I'll now pass the meeting back to Teresa. Thank you so much for allowing me this service.